All thought and action result from your nervous system, the brain, spinal cord, and nerves. This system is more sophisticated than any computer. Touching an object stimulates sensory receptors under the skin. These generate rapid electrochemical impulses that travel tiny highways called nerves, either into the spinal cord for reflexes or to the brain. Here, the impulses move along neural pathways, exciting clusters of cells in specialized sections of the brain for interpretation and then action. From the brain, the impulses again travel the nerve highways, in this case, to a muscle. This time, the message is clear. Click the button. When light waves pass through the eye, they bend and create electrical impulses that are sent to the brain, which interprets them as colors and shapes. It's called seeing. Seeing starts when light waves pass around and through objects and enter the eye through the cornea. The bent or refracted light crosses through the pupil to the lens. At the lens, the bent light waves are inverted and focused so that they converge on the retina at the back of the eye. Here, pigments on light-sensitive receptors called photoreceptors react to the light by changing color. These changes trigger electrical signals that travel along the optic nerve to the visual cortex. There, they are interpreted as shapes, sizes, and colors that your brain has learned over time. Both hearing and balance occur within the ear. In hearing, sound waves pass from the outer ear into the auditory canal. They strike the eardrum, making it vibrate. These vibrations travel to the middle ear, setting into motion three tiny bones, the hammer, anvil, and stirrup. The vibrations continue through the cochlea and deep into the inner ear, which contains a fluid reservoir. As fluid ripples across membranes, it stirs tiny hairs connected to nerve endings. The stimulated nerve endings carry impulses into the brain, where they are interpreted as sound. Also located in the inner ear is the equilibrium or balance center. The center sends continuous messages about the body's position to the brain. This information helps us maintain balance. If you can't smell, you probably can't taste very well either. They are closely related functions. Receptor cells for taste and smell are located in the mouth and nose, respectively. As the receptor cells are stimulated, they send impulses from these organs to the brain's smelling and tasting centers in the cortices. For taste, impulses stimulated by the chemical compounds in food are sent to the gustatory cortex. For smells, impulses stimulated by chemical compounds in odors are sent to the olfactory cortex. As new compounds stimulate the receptors, the brain forms an odor memory bank so that it can recall the odors the next time they are present. Your body's immune system has several defensive ploys to attack and destroy unwelcome and potentially harmful microscopic invaders. The first defense is the skin and lining of the organs that connect with the outside. These contain chemicals that break down unwelcome organisms. If an organism somehow sneaks past the skin barrier, your immune system then mobilizes a host of other defenses. Some cells surround the organism, while other cells, usually white blood cells called neutrophils, leave the blood vessel and enter the site of injury or infection. Now, other bacteria-eating cells called macrophages travel to the injured site. They extend tentacle-like arms that reach out and snare the invading organism. The macrophage then destroys the microbe with powerful chemicals or swallows it whole. Macrophages, neutrophils, and skin, along with other immune components such as antibodies, provide a multifaceted defense against infection. The circulatory system, consisting of the heart, arteries, capillaries, and veins, is the pumping mechanism that transports blood throughout the body. In the heart, the left ventricle contracts, pushing red blood cells into the aorta, the body's largest artery. From here, blood moves through a series of increasingly smaller arteries until it reaches a capillary, the junction between arteries and veins. Here, oxygen molecules detach from the red blood cells and slip across the capillary wall into body tissue. Now deoxygenated, blood begins its return to the heart. It passes through increasingly larger veins to eventually reach the right atrium. It enters the right ventricle, which pumps it through the pulmonary arteries into the lungs to pick up more oxygen. Oxygenated, blood re-enters the left atrium, moves into the left ventricle, and the blood's journey begins again. The respiratory system provides oxygen to the body's cells and removes carbon dioxide. Air containing oxygen enters the body through the nose and mouth, travels through the windpipe, and into the branching airways of the lungs called bronchi. Here, through thin-walled sacs covered by capillaries, oxygen passes through the lung tissue and goes into the bloodstream, where it locks on to red blood cells. Further in the bloodstream, the blood cells squeeze through more capillaries. Here, oxygen unhooks from the red blood cells and crosses into other body cells to be used for life-maintaining chemical reactions. When this process is reversed, carbon dioxide waste from the chemical reactions enters the bloodstream and is exhaled from the body. To nourish the body, the digestive system breaks down food into nutrient molecules, absorbs them into the bloodstream, and eliminates food byproducts. Food moves from the mouth, passes through the esophagus, and arrives in the stomach. Here, enzymes and hydrochloric acid mix with the chewed food, churning it into a thick liquid. The liquid then enters the small intestine. Here, nutrients such as carbohydrates, proteins, and fats are reduced to tiny molecules. Along with vitamins and minerals, they leave the intestine through tiny projections called villi and cross capillary beds into the bloodstream. Undigested food moves into the large intestine and then leaves the body. The male and female reproductive systems are designed to create life. Deep inside the woman, in her ovaries, one egg develops each month. From the man's testes, through his penis, millions of sperm enter the woman's vagina. Here, they begin their travel toward the egg. Only one sperm can enter the egg. When one does, fertilization occurs. Genetic material from the male and from the female combine to create the first cell of an offspring. The fertilized egg migrates to the uterus, where it develops into a fully formed fetus over a period of about 40 weeks. Then, a baby is born. Many of the body's most basic functions are regulated by the endocrine system, 8 different glands located throughout the body. The endocrine system constantly and quietly does its work, secreting liquid chemical messengers called hormones. These chemicals manage muscle growth and digestion, as well as energy, reproduction, and more. Here in the pancreas, a hormone called insulin is produced and secreted into the blood. When levels of blood glucose or sugar become too high, the pancreas increases production of insulin. Chemicals in the insulin cause body cells to open up, allowing more glucose from the blood to enter cells, stabilizing the amount of glucose in the blood and maintaining adequate energy in the cells. This is just one example of how the endocrine system regulates a number of important body functions. The visible part of your skin, hair, and nails is mostly dead. The surface is the final resting place for cells that once grew below. The skin is the body's largest organ. It acts as a barrier against wetness, sun damage, and infection. The sweat and oil glands of the skin, exocrine glands, offer two types of protection. Perspiration cools the skin as it reaches the surface, and the oil glands prevent skin and hair from dryness and keep bacteria out. The hard surface of the nail protects the sensitive tips of the fingers and toes. Hair traps air next to the body, which reduces heat loss and helps keep us warm. The hair, skin, nails, and exocrine glands are all part of a protective network called the integumentary system. We can stand, sit, and move because of the musculoskeletal system. 206 bones, 600 muscles, and more than 1,200 joints. Muscle movement requires the cooperation of both the nervous system and the musculoskeletal system. Movement occurs when groups of muscle cells contract. Electrochemical impulses from the nervous system stimulate fibers called sarcomeres, causing them to shorten. Contraction continues until the impulses cease, and the muscle once again relaxes. As muscles contract, the bones to which they are attached move. Joints, lubricating structures between bones, make movement smoother. Thanks to the teamwork of muscles, bones, and joints, locomotion is possible.